On this episode of Let's Explore This, we are going to be discussing this building, the Swain County Courthouse. Obviously, as you should be able to tell just by looking at it, it is a well-preserved landmark. Located in Bryson City on the town square, it is the kind of building that anyone driving by cannot miss. Today, it is something else. Originally, though, yes, it was the courthouse. For you see, Swain County was formed from Jackson and Macon counties in 1871. Its first court was said to be held in a log house 5 miles west of Bryson City, previously known as Chatham. Not entirely sure about that name of Chatham, but 5 miles west of Bryson City? Well, I cannot be all sure where that might have been. Let's just take this here Highway 19 about, 5 miles west. Who knows? Maybe it was over here. The first courthouse, though, that was constructed in 1872. The main floor of that building was used for county offices and holding court. The jail was located on the lower level, which could only be reached by lowering a ladder through a door in the floor above. That building, though, it soon burned, and a second was constructed in 1880. Now, 5 miles west of Bryson City, we come to a neighborhood often referred to as Dehart Mill. Yes, that is for another episode entirely, but it does lie, sort of, within an area that could be considered 4 or so miles west of Bryson City, along the banks of Alarka Creek. Maybe it's close enough that, back in those old days, someone thought it was 5. I don't know. I just chose this place because it's kind of in the west part of the area, west of Bryson City, about 5 miles west on Highway 19. Well, it was a log house, and it is a log house, so it kind of does fit the description, only that it was a log house, that is. I don't know what kind of description truly fit that very log house. It just said a log house. And here we have a log building, possibly a log house. I found it, and I used it. Regardless, then, in January of 1908, the Swain County Commissioners ordered the construction of a new courthouse. They appointed a duo, Frank P. Milburn of Washington, D.C., and Richard Sharp Smith, as architects. Milburn, he was a well-known architect who designed many public buildings in North Carolina and throughout the South. And Smith? Well, he worked in Asheville, first with Richard Morris Hunt at the Biltmore Village. Then he worked independently. Falls City Construction Company of Louisville, Kentucky, they built the structure, which cost approximately $35,000. The company was authorized by the commissioners to put a tower clock with a metal bell for a cost of $850 in that new courthouse. Well, that is all the document says, which is all well and good. However, there is this one nagging question. What happened between 1880 and 1908? What happened to that second courthouse? Well, long before Black Lives Matter or the Black Panther Party were ever thought of, there did exist racial tensions, and there must have been some right here in this county of Swain. Why? Well, apparently there were riots and even an open revolt in the beginning days of 1908 between white men and Negroes. Apparently, 5 white men were injured. The courthouse. Well, It had burned in the process, along with all the town and county records. No public documents of any kind were saved. That kind of property was destroyed, including all the marriage licenses, mayors, county commissioners, claim, and treasurer's records. I guess then, those early records of Swain County history must have all been lost. And as a result, the county commissioners and the town council, they held special meetings. A curfew ordinance was passed, which was applicable only to Negroes. It required that all Negroes must be off the streets by 9 o'clock at night. If not, they would be arrested and locked up. I guess, then, white people were allowed to trot about at night as if they were somehow the privileged ones. Yeah, a little critical race theory never hurt anyone. Or did it, like maybe the privileged white people? You know, it all had to start somewhere, and I guess part of that somewhere may have, at least to a small degree, been right here in Swain County. Reportedly, a party of 50 white men were attacked by Negroes. Guns and pistols were freely used, and the shooting took place in the street. Large numbers of persons, including women and children, had narrow escapes. Many of the Negroes have been caught and disarmed. The burning of the courthouse followed the arrest and killing of a number of Negroes. I mean, what did those white people think was going to happen? That they were going to live happily ever after? Yes, that passage, it is said to come from a New York Times article from 1908. Now, folks, it is time to discuss the architecture. The Swain County Courthouse, built in 1908, is located in the center of Bryson City, and it does dominate the surrounding commercial buildings. The most ambitious structure in town, the courthouse is a large, early, neoclassical revival building set on a spacious corner lot, all joined to the county jail and sheriff's office by an enclosed second-story crosswalk. Okay, so apparently it appears things must have changed since this structure was nominated historic way back in 1979. Anyway, that two-story stuccoed courthouse, it is a three-part composition. The three-bay central block has clipped corners and a hipped roof, all fronted by a pedimented tetra-style Ionic portico. Two-story flat roof wings, they do project beyond the core. Moving now to the south facade, it has a pedimented entrance pavilion divided into 3 bays by Ionic pilasters. A heavy 3-part cornice does wrap around the building, which is crowned with an octagonal neoclassical cupola that contains a 4-face clock. Okay, but what about that enclosed second-story crosswalk? Still, for me, it is kind of a great mystery. I just cannot get it out of my mind. I mean, where was it? And where was that jail and sheriff's office? None of those seem to be here today. Let's see. Was it back here? Tell me, folks, what do you see here? Any remnants of an old crosswalk? I don't know. Look up towards the top of those buildings. Tell me, what do you see? Now, yes, I have walked around this entire building. If there ever was, and I am assuming there was, because that is what the document said, but if there ever was a second-story crosswalk that led to anywhere, like maybe over here, possibly in the front, though that might sound a bit unusual, or maybe it led over here in the back to the big parking lot. If there ever was a second-story crosswalk, well, they did a pretty good job of covering up any ghost marks that might have been left. 'Cause I cannot seem to find any, though there is this kind of blemish over here. I certainly can't be certain that is the remnants of some old crosswalk. Like, right over in here. I mean, where was that jail and stuff located? Just think about parking lot construction. Sometimes, when they build these massive lots, they too tear stuff down in the process. So, I really don't know where those may have been. Maybe someone out there has an old photo. I mean, it is kind of interesting to think about there ever being such an extending away from the building to some other building somewhere. But I have managed to get my hands on this old photo. Now, look to the left of the building. There is some large building set right next to the courthouse. It kind of does look like it could have been some kind of administration annex, maybe like a building that may hold a jail and sheriff's office, possibly. Clearly, that is not a building that exists here today. And here I have what I believe to be an even older photo, possibly even around the time of the courthouse construction. What you can see here, however, is those funky-looking electric and telephone lines there at the corner. What is alarming here, however, is what is hiding behind the courthouse. Like, what is a two-story edifice doing behind this building? There is certainly nothing like that here today. I mean, what was that? Somebody's house? Some long-gone motel? What other surprises can one find in old historic photos of this city of Bryson? Who knows, but what I could not find is an old photo showing that crosswalk that was said to exist. What a bummer. Anyhow, I do need to now move on to, well, the interior of the Swain County Courthouse, which, yes, I am able to show you. It is laid out in a transverse hall plan with offices on the first floor and a courtroom and offices on the second. Though in need of refurbishing, most of the original finishing details are still intact. They include a pressed tin ceiling with a classical egg and dart crown mold pattern, plain board door surrounds with corner blocks in the courtroom, and a closed string stair. Okay, before we do move on, let me just mention a few things. Does the transverse hall plan still exist today? Possibly, given a transverse hallway does kind of run across the front. The space, though, at least to me, is mostly open, with no visible offices. Now, yes, there may be the administrative block there in the center, but that's about it. That is true, at least not anymore. You know, the interior likely looked different back in its early days. Also, some of the details mentioned, such as the egg and dart crown molding, no longer appear to be present. Rehabilitation, it can have that kind of an effect on a building. Today, though, all that refurbishing, it appears to have been done a long time ago. This building today, as you have seen internally and externally, is well preserved. Of course, today it acts as Swain County's Heritage Museum. Therefore, all traces of a courtroom and those offices are long gone. Well, maybe not. If you look closely, and if you know what you are looking at, maybe, just maybe, you can find ghost marks or remnants of that bygone era. Overall, though, the structure, it has been, what preservationists like to say, rehabilitated. Still, what happened to make that happen? Well, let me tell you. You see, in 1984, those old services were moved to a new location here on Mitchell Street, I guess into this building. Yeah, I know. It's like a plain administrative building. That's how they're built these days. Still, it is centered beyond the realms of the downtown. Now, I suppose that's fine. And after the courthouse and all moved to this building right here, it sat vacant for many years. Who knows what it went through during those ravaging times? But many years later, in 2014 no less, grants were obtained by the county to refurbish the building. Today, at the time this episode was filmed, it serves as the Visitor Center. The Great Smoky Mountains Association bookstore is on the first floor. Also on the first, and on all of the second, is the Swain County Heritage Museum. Oh, and folks, there is no admission charge. And with that said, yes, the time has come to move on.